All right, I hope you are excited to start inserting some of your own backgrounds in Jamboard. And we're actually going to start right in Jamboard. So you can choose through a Google image search or something you already have on your computer to add a background to your Jam. Now, backgrounds are added by frame, so you have to add a new background to each frame, even if you want the same background on every frame. You can copy frames if you want the same background across all of your frames as well. So we're going to take a look, and all I'm going to do is click Set Background, and then I'm going to click this last one that says Image, and it's going to pop up with the option to upload, URL, camera, Google image search, drive in photos. So I'm going to do a Google image search and just keep this super easy. Sometimes I want my background to look like a corkboard because of the wonderful sticky notes within Jamboard. So I'm going to take a look at all that's here to all that's offered. Find a corkboard I like. I like something light. I'm just going to go with that first one, and I'm going to click to set it as my frame background. Now, keep in mind, when you set images as your frame background, notice I now have white space on each side. That's because of the size of the actual image and the fact that it's not wide enough for this Jamboard. So I might want to go back here and look for an image that's much wider. We'll see what that does. Not quite it either. So I'm having a little bit of a hard time finding the thing that's just right for my entire Jamboard. And it's probably going to take me a while to do that. So there are two other Google apps that you can use in order to create your own backgrounds, and you're going to have a lot more control and be able to add so many more things in that background. Now, why are we talking about this? Because backgrounds are not movable on Jamboard. So you notice I can't drag this background around. So that makes it much easier when I'm working with a bunch of students and I have some custom background that I want, and I have the student who accidentally deletes it or moves it completely off the page or something else happens. So backgrounds can be a great way to stabilize certain content and then allow other things to continue to be modified. So we're going to head into Google Slides, and we're going to try the corkboard in Google Slides first, just to see how it works. Now, I do need to change a little bit about my setup in Google Slides, or I need to make sure a certain setting is on. And we're going to go down to File, Page Setup, and you want to make sure your page setup is widescreen 16:9. And the reason why is this will then import perfectly into Jamboard, and you won't have that white space on the side. So we're going to click Apply. And instead of inserting a background in the slide, I am actually just going to insert an image on top of the slide. So I'm going to click Insert, Upload from Web, Corkboard, find my corkboard, we'll insert it. And I can even drag it off the canvas altogether. But my only problem when I drag stuff off the canvas, sometimes it's hard for me to tell where the edge of the canvas is when I'm adding other things to the canvas. So I'm going to make this match the size of the canvas by using the crop tool at the top of the Jamboard. So here's that crop tool, and all I did was click crop and then drag in my sides so that it resizes directly to that canvas side. Now, maybe I want to add a few things on my canvas that also won't be movable. So I'm going to add, maybe we're doing some sorting. I like to drag in these shapes. I happen to like rounded rectangles. Noticing my rectangles are a little too big. So I'm going to use Shift and select all three rectangles. And then once I have that, then I'm going to drag this in from the side, and it's going to resize all of them at once. That saves me some time. Now, I also could spend a lot of time getting them all on the same level, but I want Google to do that for me. So I'm going to right click when I have all three selected. So to select all three, we're just going to click, and we can either hold down Shift, or you can do this with Control. And then we're going to right click when our mouse is on top of one of those items. So it's really important that you right click when your mouse is on top of one of those items. And we are going to align them vertically to the top so that they're all in a line. And then I also want them to be evenly spaced. So I'm going to distribute horizontally. Perfect. Now I want to change the color of all three at once. I like them to be black. That pops out real nicely. And I'm going to add a word art on top, because if I type directly in the shape, sometimes the font doesn't go exactly where I want it and it ends up a little bit smaller. So I'm going to add some word art on top of this. And let's see. I sort. Now we'll just do cats. Drag this in from the side. And I don't like that font, so let's get one of my favorite fonts, which is Arvo. And all I did in order to make a duplicate of cats, I find it easier to then change the text this way, so then I don't have to resize everything to be the same size, is I used Control C to make that, and then I'm going to double click on that, and I'm going to put dogs there. And notice how it fits it in that same exact size. So I'm going to put dogs over here. We're going to find the middle of the shape where those red crosshairs are. And then we did that copy again with Control C and then Control V for victory. We're going to put both in the middle. We'll just make it like a Venn diagram, except in the form of a table. And I'm having a hard time finding the middle, but I'm noticing I've got little blue crosshairs underneath there. Okay, so that looks pretty good. And now I want to add some lines. So one trick I have learned recently, I learned this from Tony Vincent when I took his classy graphics class, is if you hold down Shift when you make your lines in Google, it will make them perfectly straight. I used to spend hours trying to drag the line, not hours, but a long time. And so I'm holding down Shift and the line's going to come out nice and straight. And I want it to be a little bigger. And I want it to have some dashes. And I think I want it to be black. Okay, so I have that. Now I'm going to do Control C, Control V, and I'm going to put my other line over here, and I'm going to make sure that they're lined up using that red crosshair as well. Okay, so I have my Venn diagram ready to go. I don't quite like the way that this is looking because dogs looks like it sticks up in the air. So I'm going to switch this to be all caps. It to be nice and line, although this is looking really large. Design is all about playing and playing until you find what's right. That's not in the center. I know it isn't. In order to re-edit what I'm putting in the background, I'm just double clicking, or what I'm putting in the word art, I'm just double clicking on that word art. So let's take all three of these, hold down Shift, click, 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 and then I'm going to hold down Shift when I shrink the size. And the reason why I'm doing this is it's going to shrink all of them with the same aspect ratios. So I'm not going to get any like shrunk way down or smushed type of text. So now I can take and move these guys to where I want them. So there's dogs, there's both, there's cats, and we're going to select them one more time, and we're going to align to the center. Oops, totally the wrong one. I want to align vertically to the middle. Okay, I like the way that looks. And I did this all with using what is already in Google Slides. Remember, I inserted images, I added lines, I added shapes, and I added word art. Now, I want to add this as a Jamboard background. So I'm going to just give this a title for the moment. Cat dog Ben. Or maybe I just want to call this Ben background because I want a bunch of different Bens in here. Okay, so in Google Slides, the benefit of Google Slides is you can create a whole bunch of slides. So I can create as many slides as I want, and I'm going to export my images one at a time, but sometimes I think it's really easy to export when you can see all of your slides there. You can do the exact same design we just did in Google Drawings, and the tools look identical. So you have your insert, you have your word art, you have your image, you have your shape tool and your line tool. The benefit of using Google Drawings is when you are working and you need transparency, Google Drawings offers transparency. Google Slides does not have that ability to create a transparency background around things. Now, if you're uploading a background into Jamboard, transparency doesn't really matter, but if you're creating your own icons for an activity that you want to be manipulated, then transparency is probably going to matter. So in this case, I'm just going to keep designing with Google Slides. I'm going to click File, and I'm ready to get this image, and I'm going to download this as a PNG. So it is only going to download that current slide, so one slide at a time. We're going to let my computer do some thinking. We'll just save it as Venn background. And then we're going to head over to Jamboard now. I have mine set up to show here at the bottom when I download in Chrome, but if you don't have yours set up that way, you're going to want to pay attention to where it saves on your machine. So we're going to click Set Background and click this check mark. It's going to go back to our Google image search. I'm going to go back to upload, and because I already have the file down here, I can just drag it up, or I could have browsed my computer for that file. Going to give it a moment, let it do its thinking. And I have a perfectly ready background to go. And notice I can't drag any of the words or lines out of the way. So now when my students add their sticky notes, they can add their sticky notes wherever, and it doesn't interrupt with that structure of whatever activity I'm trying to do with students. Now, if you create this background, and let's say you have a bunch of students working in this Jamboard and you want them to be on different frames, but all be doing the same activity, you can just come up and duplicate that before students add sticky notes. Keep in mind, if they've added sticky notes, the sticky notes are going to appear on every duplicated thing, but maybe you want that one there as an example. So I can duplicate my backgrounds that way, or I can even just click on one of my frames, do Control C and then Control V to paste it into another frame.